Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Real Reds Talk, your favourite football fan channel dedicated to Manchester United. And I have got a special show lined up for you lot today. I've been up pretty much most of the night researching our new potential owners, who the other two could potentially be, and what they're going to bring to the table, plus a full disclosure of their background. So buckle up. It's a lot of knowledge, a lot of insight, about to get thrown your way. And yeah, keep your ears open because, like I said, there's a lot of deep insight going into this and a lot of research. So if you're ready to dive straight into it, make sure you smash a like on the video and stay with me because there's some really interesting facts here. The title of the show, as you can see, 5 billionaires, one bid. And that is because there are 5 bidders in contention to buy Manchester United. And I've took a deep dive into their history, wealth, status, whatever it is, as an owner, and how credible reports are that, basically how serious they are about buying the club. So the list of potential buyers include Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his company Ineos. I'm sure we're all familiar with him. Qatar, the Emir of Qatar, QIA, so Qatar Private Investment. HBSC, so Harrison Blitzer Sports, which is another US investment firm. Stephen Pagliuca, co-chairman of Bain Capital and owner of Atlanta Football Club in Italian in the Serie A. And then one big rumor as well is Saudi Arabia Private Investment and another undisclosed US investment firm. So we're going to dive into it, kind of each one, essentially. We'll start with the first one. Well, basically, we'll start with the first one to kind of throw his name into the hat, which was Sir Jim Ratcliffe, a fan of the club, a fracking and chemicals entrepreneur who is one of the UK's wealthiest individuals, and currently owns Nice. OGC Nice, I think it is, in the French league, amongst other clubs around the world as well. But Nice being the one with the biggest reputation, essentially, who I think he bought for about £100 million. When we take a look at Nice, how they've been run since Sir Jim Ratcliffe has took over, they've been unable to replicate the success they enjoyed before Ratcliffe's arrival. In the 6 years before Ratcliffe bought Nice, the club finished in the top 4 3 times. 6 years beforehand, the club finished in the top 4 3 times. Since Ratcliffe has come in, they finished 5th twice and 9th, and they're currently mid-table at the minute. I believe the 10th or 9th, somewhere around that kind of area. So they haven't been able to maintain similar standards under this kind of regime. One reason for this is Sir Dave Brailsford, the former Team GB cycling coach, who now serves as Ineos Director of Sport. And reports suggest that he's fell out with numerous executives at Nice and had a terrible time in the transfer market as well. So it doesn't seem like he's employed the right man for the job there. Brailsford's audit led to the departure of CEO Bob Ratcliffe, Jim's brother, and transfer guru Fournier. The manager Gaslier could have been sacked as well. Had his old friend Luis Campos not been installed at PSG. So broken fractures there within the structure and the foundations at Nice. Doesn't seem to be going great. But with Nice's coach, sporting director and CEO all gone, that's when the former Crystal Palace director Ian Moody was brought in as, to aid recruitment, essentially. He signed a host of Premier League has-beens. So he signed players like Ross Barkley, Aaron Ramsey, Pepe from Arsenal, Schmeichel from Leicester, not to mention the lack of planning in the transfer market as well, which left Nice with a talented but horribly disjointed squad for the rest of the season. Also, another glaring issue with him owning Nice is the complications of multi-club ownership, which may also affect any potential deal. Nice fans are already wary of their club becoming a kind of feeder club, and there's a theory as to how he would get around that, certain loopholes, etc. And this is a reoccurring theme with quite a lot of the people who want to bid for Manchester United. You'll see when I get into more depth with them kind of guys, but this multi-club ownership seems to be a factor within each one. On a more positive note, if Ratcliffe buys United, the former Paris Saint-Germain CEO Jean-Claude Blanc is likely to be involved. Blanc, who will become CEO of Ineos Sports next month, has a wealth of sports management experience, including 2 years at Juventus as CEO between 2009 and 11, I think it was. And he held the same position at PSG for like 12 years. And the PSG President Nasser Al Khalifa described his contribution as fantastic upon his departure over Christmas. But yeah, the supposed aim of becoming, PSG's main rivals, that was the statement that was put out there when Sir Jim Ratcliffe kind of was taking over Nice. It's never really come to fruition for Ratcliffe. In the last 12 months alone, Ineos have sacked Fournier, Favre, and Gattier, while also sidelining the popular and previously successful Riviere. So yeah, it's all going off at Nice at the minute, from top to bottom. As far as I'm aware, look, I've not seen many fans, because it's a French league. I'd love to speak to a Nice fan about this and really get their opinion on it. But I'm just going off things that I've read online, done my research in certain areas and stuff. So I don't think the fans are overly happy with it at the minute, because prior to Sir Jim Ratcliffe coming in, they seemed like the potential that he was making them, making them stepping stones, getting second, third, whatever it was. But now it's more consecutive finishes in 5th and 9th. So kind of since Sir Jim Ratcliffe, you could argue since he's come in, the club's gone slightly worse. And I suppose the question on everybody's lips is, would Ratcliffe be a good owner for Manchester United? The club fans might argue that anything is better than the Glazers' ownership. But for me, personally, I don't just want to settle for anything. I want the absolute best in class. I'd also like to see a manifesto from these guys who are coming in, guys, girls, whoever it is, who are coming in to buy the club, and see sort of a 10-year plan or a 10-step plan, whatever you want to call it. Just what they want to do to bring United back to the top of European football, dominating. That's what I want to hear. What are you going to do? Are you going to invest in the infrastructure, the stadium? What are you going to do with the stadium? What are your plans for that? Like, I need to see a 10-step plan. Do you know what I mean? Like Hulk Hogan says there, better the devil you know. Sam says, no clean billionaires. However, the less human rights abusing, the better. Hard to disagree with that. Aaron Gregory says, Jim Ratcliffe would be taking out loans to be funded. Don't we want rid of the debt? Now, there seems to be a bit of confusion with this debt situation, because it's not similar to what the Glazers done. So putting this aside, it gives you more funds, basically, in order to invest in a stadium or whatever it is that needs investment in United. It's standard business practice, as far as I'm aware. But look, I suppose we'll get into more depth about that when we actually see who takes over the club, and go about it from there. But yeah, look, that's Sir Jim Ratcliffe. That's his name in the hat. That's who he is. That's how he became about his wealth. Obviously, I touched on at the very start there that he was fracking and chemicals entrepreneur, who is one of the UK's wealthiest individuals, as many people know him anyway, with him being British nationality. So yeah, going away from Europe, another potential bidder is Qatari private investment. So the Emir of Qatar, this only got announced last week, I think it was, when the news broke. And it absolutely broke Twitter when it did. So the Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, has also registered interest in buying the Premier League giant, which is Manchester United, and not just, partial investment, whatever it is full blown buying the club. Like, he wants the full club. It's not just, we'll invest, I don't know, fucking 18% or whatever it is. He is the monarch of the head of the state. He's also the commander-in-chief of the armed forces and guarantor of the constitution. He holds the most powerful, most powerful position in the country, and has a prominent role in foreign relations. Now, Qatar is known as one of the wealthiest surviving dynasties, like, in the world, basically, with about 8,000 members. The family has a total net worth of about 335 billion pounds, which stems from multiple cash flows, one of them being rich natural resources, and others include investments in properties like London Shard skyscraper, Olympic Village, Harrods department store, the Empire State Building. They've got stakes in Barclays Banks, British Airways, and automobile companies like Volkswagen as well. So they've got the fingers in a lot of pies around the world, which you would expect from a wealthy state. So it's not, it's not out of the ordinary. They're like, oh, no way they'd have that much investment around the world. So, you know what I mean? It's obvious they have a lot of wealth, a lot of power, and contrary to what people might think, they don't just want to invest anything and everything for ridiculous prices. We know the Glazers want around £6 billion for the club. That's what's been put out there. But most buyers who are putting their name in the hat believe a £4.5 billion valuation of United is fair. So when it comes to actually bidding for the club, most buyers have an equal opportunity in that sense. It's not going to be like, I'll give you 10 billion, I'll give you 2. It's going to be around that kind of ballpark figure, and no one's going to want to kind of overpay. If anyone is going to, maybe it will be Middle East, like a Saudi Arabia or a Qatar investment firm who are willing to pay that little bit extra, but it's not going to be ridiculously like, you know what I mean? They won't over egg the pudding too much, basically, which is contrary to reports that suggest that, they'll blow any bid out of the water. So someone's chatting shit about that. I have no idea who that could be. Vincent Bullock saying, "So Jim, please get this club back to being British owned again." Daniel Raj, who is looking favourite, and like Sam said there, whoever has the most cash down, basically, that's basically who it's going to be. The Glazers could be like, "What are you offering? What are you?" Someone could come with an absolute formula of a plan, the best 10-step plan you've ever seen in your life, and be like, we're going to do this with the stadium. We're going to back Ten Hag with this amount of money. We're going to structure it like this. We're going to get rid of your board of directors. We're going to bring the best in class there, etc. And Glazers are going to be like, okay, all right. Who's got the most money? And then someone in the corner, I'll pay 6 billion. And they're like, you sold. So it's not a case of they're not going to give a fuck about who, you know what I mean? Like who's got the best intentions for the club. They're going to care who's got the most of that. Now, this Qatar bid, how likely is it that the bid will become a reality? No one from reports that I've read, no one on the Qatari side denies that the Gulf state is exploring investment opportunities in football. Beyond ownership of Paris Saint-Germain, there's been strong rumours that they're looking to invest in English football. They have a lot of links in England, and all the rumblings are directing to them putting in a bid in the next couple of days, if they haven't already. We haven't heard news that they have, but we've also heard news that there's a couple of bids gone in, but we don't know who that's from. So that could already be a Qatari bid. Of course, Avram Glazer, Joel Glazer have been over in Qatar, during the World Cup. This stems back to like November, December. That's when they was talking around that time. So there's obviously been long conversations, discussions, which you would expect for a club the size of Manchester United. It's not going to be sold overnight, is it? It's United's absolutely huge. So yeah, maybe a bid will go in the next couple of days. However, with most bids, there are potential stumbling blocks, of course, and UEFA will have to try to determine whether the owners of United are, suitably distinct from the owners of PSG to avoid a risk of sporting collusion. Should the two face each other in European competition, which, of course, has happened in recent times, thanks for that penalty, Kimpembe, if you know, you know. This rule states that no individual or legal entity may have control or influence over more than one club participating in a UEFA club competition. In the same breath, that's not to say there isn't, loopholes to get around these kind of issues. We've seen it numerous times, which I'm going to touch on in a second with Salzburg and Leipzig. But in a nutshell, PSG are owned by Qatar Sports Investment, which will not be able to acquire anything more than a minority stake in United. But QSI is in turn funded by QIA. And if another company under the QIA umbrella, say, I don't know, the Qatar National Bank, were to make a bid, it's possible the same restrictions would not apply. One suggestion of this, which I just touched on then, could be made is that Salzburg and Leipzig play in the same competition, who are both owned by Red Bull. So it is possible, but we'd have to be legit and on the books and everything done clean and professional, as we know. But it is UEFA, so who fucking knows? No one does, do they? Let's be honest. An interesting thing to note is one of the key decision influencers in this situation will be Nasser Al Khalifa, who's the current president of PSG and has a big spot on the QSI chair. He also sits on the executive committee of UEFA, but from everything I've seen or read, a lot of people say he's someone who respects football and its values. And an example of this was when the Super League was going on and it was all kicking off. PSG were one of the clubs who resisted the siren call of the European Super League, and he was in charge of that decision. So that's one side for him, and a lot of people thanked him for that, taking the stance. And maybe that shows some form of morality. Maybe that shows that some form of integrity. Who knows? But there's also been many rumblings about corruption around the World Cup. Certain bids between the French president and the president of PSG. Loads of little briberies going on around there. So you don't really know. It's hard to kind of determine. I can't say for a fact he's corrupt. He's not corrupt. He's a good guy. Like, it's hard. I can only go off what I've read. So I'll give you the facts there. you take that, you deal with it however you like. And again, look, the issues deepen. So with Qatar, there was obviously certain things from the World Cup people wasn't happy with. One of them, which is obviously smaller in regards to the other ones, is the fact that they demanded a total ban on the sale of alcohol literally days, hours before the tournament began. People were pissed off with that. The preparations before the event also prompted plenty of scrutiny as well, due to human rights abuses, as well as their stance on the LGBTQ plus community, workers' rights. You know, they had immigrants over there from India and various other places, literally dying building the stadiums because of the temperature over there, and the working conditions were absolutely terrible. Not to mention the accommodation they supplied them with. Some of them were just basically tents in the desert, and he was making about £100 a month or something ridiculous, which 75% of them were sending back over to the families who were struggling in their own country. So, look, it's there's a lot of dark stories behind that kind of ownership, and that needs to be exposed, and it needs to be explained to people who, you know, might not know about this, might be, you know, slightly naive, might, you know, not have read into these situations. But it's important to put both sides out there, because there are big stories like this behind wealth and power. So my job is to leave the information out there and try to let you guys decide. I'm not trying to sway anyone's opinion or push you to one particular party. I'm just trying to give you the facts and some depth as to who these people are and what they stand for. So, yeah, let's see. Read a couple of comments. Qatar only. Vincent says Qatar only to give 2.1 billion for the club. Nah, they won't offer that. They'll offer more. The Glazers will laugh at that if they put the bid in. That sounds like another way of sport washing. We don't want none of that. Thank you all. See how City I'm going to be dealt with because of this. Yeah, but just because it's. I'm going to touch on US investment in a second because there's a stigma with that. But just because it's a Middle Eastern investment thing that wants to get involved doesn't mean it's not, you know, naturally going to be sports washing. I'm not saying it isn't, but it's not a guarantee. But I kind of get what you're saying. Danish Iqbal. Only thing I'm afraid of is as there's news of ESL, due to which Glazers might continue as ESL will give money. Yeah, this is the thing. There's been a couple of reports about them taking partial investment, but let's be clear. Whoever it is who keeps the Glazers in a job will be vilified, and there'll be an absolute uproar from the fans. Let alone, we've wanted these Glazers out for so long, 18 years, however long it's been. Imagine get to the point where they're like, right, we're going to sell. And then they do a U-turn on it and say, oh, no, we're just going to take investment and then keep taking money out of the club, etc. It'd just be absolute anarchy on the streets of Manchester. So I can't imagine him doing that. Would I put it past him? No, I wouldn't put it past him. But it seems like a full sale from everything I've seen, everything I'm reading. It seems like a full sale. Be sure to smash a like on the video. I'm going to get into US investments very shortly as well. But smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's go through it together. Let me know in the comment section, interact, because the bids are going in. The deadline's the 17th of February. So we've literally got 5 days, which is ironic because it's 5 bidders as well. So 5 days until we see, you know, who has bidded for the club. It's a big decision. This is the club of Manchester United. This is the club we love. You know, this is going to be a huge decision for the next 10, 15 years, however long the next owners stay. So, yeah, massive, massive news. And I'm going to touch on the US investment in a second. My voice is nearly going, man. Been active all day. This content. Literally clips, shorts, TikToks, live watch-alongs, reviews, and this show now. So, dedication to the cause, of course. Right, let's have a look. Next up, we have US investment and some unknown investors as well, which I'm going to touch on now. These haven't been confirmed yet, but the other buyers are believed to be US investment firms. The reports are that the bidders who initially went in for Chelsea, who wasn't successful, will return with a bid for Manchester United and could possibly even consider collaborating in order to really have a chance at winning the bid. So the two buyers who have been mentioned are HBSC, not HSBC, confusing it with the bank. HBC, wow. Hey, I'm confusing myself now. HBSC and Steve Bagliuca. The other one that was mentioned was the Ricketts family, but they've now been ruled out. So they ruled themselves out of bidding in for Manchester United, which is a good thing because Chelsea fans didn't want the Ricketts family and their ownership's absolutely terrible. So that's a positive. And And we ask ourselves, who are these investment firms? What do they own? How do they treat their entities? Do they have contacts to oversee a structure of the size of Manchester United? Let's go through this together, right? So we'll start with HBSC. Again, not HSBC, the bank. It's HBSC, an abbreviation of Harrison Blitzer Sports Entertainment. As the name says, it's an American sports and entertainment firm funded by Harrison Blitzer in 2017. The company has some of the America's biggest sports franchises in its portfolio. So Josh Harris, the co-founder of Apollo Global Management, has a net worth of about £7.6 billion. He's teamed up with Martin Broughton, a former chairman of British Airways PLC and Liverpool, to create a financial powerhouse. Harris is a minority owner of the NFL's Pittsburgh Steelers and has stakes in NBA's Philadelphia 76ers and the NHL's New Jersey Devils. He also has a stake in another Premier League club, which obviously we'll be familiar with, which is Crystal Palace. And he has an 18% stake in that, which, again, he would probably have to offload in order to bid for United, which I'm sure he won't mind doing because he was going to do it for Chelsea and he was going to do it for Liverpool. So how are the other clubs, which he's in charge of, how are they getting on? I'll tell you in a second. Oh, you love a bit of water, don't you? So, how are the clubs that he currently owns? Now, I couldn't find great detail about the clubs that they currently run, like, really in depth. I've got a few bits on them, but from what I've read online, they've made the Philadelphia 76ers pretty mediocre, and fans aren't happy with the way they're running it. A lot of fans wanted him to sell the club to someone else. And there was a lot of controversy about how he handled the club and staff at the club during the pandemic. But I don't believe I have enough depth of knowledge on this specifically to give my opinion. Again, it's something I've read online. It's stuff I've seen on fan blogs, etc. It's hard to get, for some bizarre reason, to get in-depth financial knowledge on these kind of clubs. It's quite hard to think of. But from what I've read, it doesn't look great with this kind of management. And it's clearly what a team in England, because they are, like I said, they already have an 18% stake in Crystal Palace. They bid for Chelsea, which they failed in bidding for that. And they was interested in Liverpool. But obviously Liverpool, they announced FSG said they wanted to sell the club or sell stakes in the club or whatever before United did. And they haven't, the name's been in the hat, but they haven't really gone in for it. So will they look at that situation now and be like, right, United's obviously a more attracting, club to go for. We'll dive in for that instead of Liverpool. I'm not entirely sure. But they definitely want to invest in a club in the Premier League, which why wouldn't you? Because the Premier League, the amount of money it's generating, the power it holds in sports at the minute is off the scale. So a lot of rich people wanting to invest in the Premier League, obviously wanting returns, which with United, if you keep them in and around the top four anyway, you're going to get a return on that. But as fans of the club, we don't just want someone who is just going to, look for quick investment. And Harrison Blitzer is an investment for they're not going to look for a quick return, but in the same breath, some of the other clubs that they own, as far as I believe, like the New Jersey Devils, is it? Or something like that. Like a couple of the other ones are doing relatively well. So there's kind of a mix of opinion on this. Vincent Bullock says, bloody hell, this is like trying to find out the results if you've got a ticket for the final, which I believe I have because they went in and took £125. Okay. Cheers, Vincent. Moving on to the next one, Stephen Pagliuca. Who is Stephen Pagliuca? Some people might say. So Stephen Gerard Pagliuca is an American private equity investor, co-chairman of Bain Capital, co-owner of the Boston Celtics and the Italian team Atlanta. And just for people who are curious, thinking, what's Bain Capital? It's one of the world's leading private investment firms with approximately £160 billion worth of assets. And with the other ownership thing being with Atlanta, which is obviously football related, I thought I'd go down that avenue in a similar sense, to try and get some insight into the ownership there and how the clubs have been run. At time of speaking on the new deal with Atlanta, Pagliuca said, Atlanta and Boston Celtics share the common sport values, teamwork, and extraordinary relationship with the fans and the community. We believe that the Percassi family has built very solid foundations on which to work together to strengthen the brand globally, with the aim of encouraging further diversification and growth of revenues, allowing the club to become more and more competitive on Italian and the international seen. Now, you might be thinking, well, that just could be lip service. Everybody says a big, giant, you know, insightful, something for fans to grip on. I understand it. So I had a look at how Atlanta is run. So it was, again, specific details, hard to find financials and stuff like that. But how Atlanta are run on a day-to-day basis is very, very interesting. And no statistic illustrates this other than Atlanta's meteoric rise more than their record against the elite of Italian football. 14 wins, 14 draws, and just 7 defeats over the course of the past 3 seasons, and that's against Juventus, Inter Milan, AC Milan, Lazio, Roma, and Napoli. In the transfer market, they've sold really well as well. We would obviously know as United fans buying Amad Diallo for £30 million. Christian Romero, they bought for really cheap and sold to Spurs for good money. Other players like Kulusevski, similar situation. They've also bought really well. So Gossens, who they bought for 900k, has been a pivotal player for them. Hatboer, another good buy. Like I just said with Kulusevski, really good scouting on him, sold for good money. To Juventus, and then was it to Juventus? And then Juventus sold him to. Was that how it went? I think something along the lines of that. And then you got Bastoni as well, who was sold to Inter Milan. So they always produce great young talent and sell for good money. Similar blueprints, basically, to the Ajax model or Benfica. And the manager Gasperini has a net spend of €73 million since his appointment. To put that into perspective, Romelu Lukaku cost Inter Milan more than Atlanta's whole entire squad. And their most expensive signing, I believe, was Luis Muriel at Atlanta, of course, for €18 million. So they're very diligent in the market. They scout talent really well. They've got a great manager in. They promote young players. So it's a lot of this is relatively good. And to combat this, a key cog in Atlanta's machine has been investment in their academy and scouting network, something United really need to work on if we're being, completely honest. Also, Atlanta spend a minimum of €5 million annually on youth coaching and the academy, and they have done for a number of decades. This has helped churn out a number of talented players: Andrea Conte, Alessandro Bastone, Roberto Gilardino, Dejan Kulusevski, all transferred for significant fees. They're consistently punching above the weight. They have an attractive style of football, a great fan community, and are not allowing themselves to be stripped of parts, which has led them to consecutively compete in Europe against the big boys. So does that automatically mean that Pagliuca would be a fantastic owner and we should get him in immediately? No. We need to know more about the infrastructure, financial reports, how much they're willing to invest, etc. But this, again, it's an insight. It's what I've read. It's what I've seen. It's important to get it out there, the information. For some people might just think, I can't be asked researching all this. I just want to listen to someone. That's what I'm here for. I still think it's super interesting, though. And like I said, people might say, well, the reason why they're doing so well is they've got a good manager, they've got good players, they've got good recruitment staff, but essentially, who's in charge of all that? It's Pagliuca. So from the outside looking in, he seems like a good option. And that might ruffle some feathers because people are talking about US investment, saying, fuck that. I don't want this. I don't want another US ownership model in. And I understand it. I get it. There seems to be a stigma with the US investors because of the Glazers, because of Todd Bowler, the Crankies, and FSG haven't been great, which is a bit of an understatement. They've been shit, especially the Glazers. FSG's been all right for Liverpool at times. The Crankies were bad for Arsenal, but then they seem to have turned it around a little bit with Edu and Arteta. And then Todd Bowler is still yet to be seen. He seems like a bit of a madman at the minute, but it could pay off and he could look good. So essentially, the real bad ones have been the Glazers, and then other rival fans might argue that, but the Glazers have been the worst, which obviously we felt the full force of. And I absolutely understand that. And naturally, a lot of people think it'd be terrible if any US investment firm took over. And I was of a similar opinion, but that just simply isn't the case. You can't define every owner by the nationality. You just can't. There are great owners and there are terrible owners. If you look at, let's say, for example, you look at Leicester's owners, yeah? Leicester's owners are from Thailand. They treat the club, obviously, rest in peace, I think it was the son's now in charge, but it was the dad who died in the helicopter crash. So rest in peace, of course. But they're from Thailand. The family, I can't remember the names. It's a C something family who are from Thailand. Great owners, one of the best owners in the league, right? The way Leicester, the recruitment, the brand new facilities that they've got, everything at the club runs relatively smooth, aside from some of the fixtures on the pitch. But the great owners. You look at Reading's owners. You go talk to Reading fans. They have Thai owners as well, and they're being ran terrible, absolutely shite. I think Sheffield Wednesday as well have Thai owners. So it's not a case of nationality. I get there's a stigma with it, but it's about who they are, what they do with the clubs, how well they run them. Like there's a lot of variables involved with it. That's what it's about, perspective and angles. And one thing I would say it again, Nick. One thing I would like to point out, on the flip side of the coin, is a potential problem with US investments could be European football isn't saw as important as American sports in their mind, being from there. United might not be held with this, same importance as, let's say, the 76ers or the Jets. And I personally think we need someone who sees Manchester United as a bit of a passion project. It needs to be a passion project, and they want them at the absolute top of pinnacle sports. Not a franchise, not another, cash cow, not a Mick United or anything like that. Just their absolute priority and passion, and to make us the best club in Europe dominating football. That's what I want to hear. Let's say, I'm in a boardroom now, and I'm the one who's selling the United, which obviously I would never do. But if I was selling United, and I was a fan on the board, and he was like, "What do you want from us?" Thing is with United is you don't even have to, necessarily spend. I know you're gonna have to spend money on the stadium, but you could probably get that from match day revenue anyway. So that all of that will take care of itself, including the wage bill, etc. Because we generate about £600 million per year, so that's fine. We just need organic growth. That's what we need. If you nurture United in the right way, you'd get them back to the top anyway. It's just smart business. That's all it is. You initially invest, long term, you'll get it back, especially if you're successful on the pitch and you're winning trophies and stuff. You'll get it. But with all these new UEFA financial fair play rules, you obviously don't want to go down the path what Man City have, when they've got this fucking 10-year investigation and breaching over 100 financial rules. They were trying to force it. They were putting shit out there that they earn more money than Real Madrid and Manchester United. And globally, that's impossible. Absolutely impossible. So they've been lying about the finances. United wouldn't have to do that. We would not have to do that. We make that money anyway, pretty much. Dividends is another thing. And one thing that falls into Jim Ratcliffe's kind of area, which is a good thing, is he doesn't believe in taking dividends, which I'm a fan of, because the Glazers, I don't know how much it is in total that they've taken, but it's hundreds of millions that they've taken out of the club for personal family things and stuff like that. It's absolute bullshit. And especially when they did it after the season, when we had the pandemic and stuff, it was just really bad tasteful in a shit season. When we needed to buy players in January, and then they ended up taking £15 million during the window. So yeah, let's have a look at the poll. What's everyone saying? So at the start of the show, I put a poll out that said, "Who do you want as the new owners?" 57% have said Qatar investment. 4% have said US investment. So Jim Ratcliffe is on 30%. Excuse me. And then others is 9%. So whoever has put in the other category, please let me know in the comment section who that would be and who your preference would be as well. Now, there's obviously a couple of other ones as well. There's Saudi Arabia, which could be a media agency or something along the lines of that. And there's a few other rumours that are going about. But I think from what I've seen in regards to the Saudi Arabia thing, I've read something before that they was kind of distancing themselves from it. Now, they might come in with a surprise bid and I'd look like an idiot. But from everything I'm reading, that's kind of, I don't know. It's a mystery at the minute. So I don't want to speculate on that too much, because on what day are we on? 12th. So the 17th will be Friday. So this Friday is when the bids will be announced. And if that comes out and it's not even a Saudi Arabia kind of investment firm interested in this, I'm going to look like a fucking wally out. So I didn't want to do a deep dive of them in case it came out and they're like, it's not Saudi Arabia, mate. It's Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Qatar, and 3 US investment firms. So that's why I haven't done that. And I mentioned 3 US investment firms there. I've mentioned Pagliuca and I've mentioned HBSC, the Harrison Blitzer thing. Now, there's a third one, apparently, that's undisclosed at the minute. I don't believe anyone has any specific information on this. So who that is, fuck knows. There was talks of 6th Street, but I think 6th Street ruled themselves out of the run, so it's not them. And there was talks of another one, but the Ricketts family, they ruled themselves out. So who is it? Who is the mystery, the 5th one? Or will it be Saudi Arabian investment? I'm not entirely sure. Maybe that's what people in the poll was referring to with the 9%. Maybe it's one of them. But in my personal opinion, I think the overall problem with the Glazers has always been the lingering debt, constant dividends, and poor governance of the club, which is we need the opposite of. And any new owner, from any new owner, excuse me, we just need them to take good care of the club and nurture the organic growth, invest, believe in Ten Hag. That's another thing as well, because look what he's doing right now with a very thin squad at the minute and 2 signings who was never even planned for January, really. I know there was talks with Vegas, but in the market, the names that were flying around were Yao Felix, Memphis Depay, and a couple of others. Nobody ever even mentioned Vegas, but because he was a cheap option, a couple of £1 million, and he's the Dutch connection, they're both from similar areas, it seemed more of an easy deal to do, and the Glazers were more likely to sanction it because it's a couple of £1 million. It's cheap as fuck. It's nothing to them, really, which they'll probably just leave on whoever it is who comes in to buy the club anyway, because that was the big talk of, the debt that's lingering. What's going to happen with that? Do they include it in the sale of the club? Do they take it off themselves? Like, how'd that work? And that was the criticism of Sir Jim Ratcliffe, that he was going to lend money off JP Morgan, who, by the way, was involved in Super League, I believe. But they're all just money. It doesn't matter. So they're willing to back Sir Jim Ratcliffe in that sense and take the debt off his hands, so Jim can then spend on other things within the club, which that is standard business practice. That's how it works. I was going off on a tangent there. What was I talking about? Gone on right down a little rabbit hole and just can't dig myself out of it now. I don't know what I was talking about. Yeah, basically, I'm just saying there's a lingering debt. How is that going to be dealt with? That's another thing that we need to know. Maybe they should throw that in the fucking 10-step manifesto. We need to know. Fans need to know, because we're all scratching our heads at the minute. We're having to wait on these financial journalists to report little golden nuggets on Twitter and stuff and see what's what. But we're going to hear very shortly. It's almost exciting and nervous times, in it, for Manchester United fans at the minute as the bids draw closer, and we are potential days away from them going in. Interesting times. Have we got any more comments to dig into? No, we're all good. Yeah, but do you guys have a preference? Please let me know in the comment section. Also, let me know, is this something you've enjoyed? Because, like I said, I've stayed up most of the night doing research on this, looking into different backgrounds and getting as much as I possibly can on how the current clubs they own are run, what their plan is for the club, if there's anything that's been mentioned, how much the wealth is, how they got into power, and how they've come to this point where the essentially going to bid for Manchester United. Also, let me know, like I said, if this is something you've enjoyed, please do let me know. And don't forget to smash a like on the video. Share this to friends, please. If there's anyone United fans who are interested in this kind of stuff about the new ownership, which I imagine is quite a few of you, share it to a friend. Let them know. Or if you like football content in general, if you need something to listen to whilst you're in work, whilst you're going to sleep, could be whilst you're having a shit, who knows. This is the place to be. Turn on that notification bell as well, so when we go live for transfer news regarding new ownership, any kind of stuff, you won't miss it. It'll just pop up on your phone. Smash a like on the video, please. Subscribe to the channel. My name's Nick. Thank you for listening, guys. Take care of yourselves. The schedule will be dropping tomorrow morning, by the way, on the Instagram, so keep an eye out for that. Follow us on socials, TikTok, Twitter, and Insta for regular updates. Okay? Take care of yourselves. Have a lovely Sunday, and I'll see you in the next one.